But I don't like watching, YouTube and stuff. But I mean, I think everyone's different, and you're right. Like as an educator, as an actual teacher, you're 100% right. That is how kids are, and like that's how we teach. Yeah.
These Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're gonna be, not necessarily brain broken, but like
they are. They are.
They are. The way they consume content, the way they consume education.
Same. I teach freshman history. I'm a freshman high school history teacher.
They're so brain rotted.
They're 100% brain rotted.
Yeah.
We're doomed. We're cooked, chat.
We really are, dude. Like, it's all just TikTok sounds in the classroom now. Like,
dude, yeah. I just hear skibbity, whatever, like all day.
What the hell? What the hell?
Oh my days, what the hell? Literally.
School children should receive an accurate and comprehensive education on communist regimes and policies. Communism has led to the deaths of over 100 million victims worldwide. It has failed every time it's been tried. And sadly, polls today show that 1 in 5 millennials and 1 in 3 members of Gen Z have a positive viewpoint of communism. Wow.
Before we get to the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it to that uncle who's a communist. And if he isn't, he will be.
Don't forget to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/Revolutionary Rhetoric. And Revolutionary Rhetoric is an affiliate of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network.
All right, let's get to the video. Well, back with episode number 5 here.
Season 2, episode 5.
A Revolutionary Rhetoric podcast. Today we have PokePreet, is it?
Yeah, PokePreet.
PokePreet. Oh my God, where's that name from? I have an idea, right? It's Pokemon, right?
Yeah. As a kid, I used to love Pokemon, especially, people always ask me like which generation I like, but I like the offshoot games, the mystery dungeon games. So like,
God.
Yeah, Pokemon Snap is still like, I think the best game. Pokemon.
Mine was Stadium, bro. Back in the day on my 64,
dude,
Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap.
Oh my God.
Good.
Those were the best ones.
I saw a gameplay of it that I didn't even like. It was like somebody used it as a meme in one of their videos, and it popped up, and I had like a nostalgic orgasm. I don't even know how to explain it. And
very visceral.
I don't know how else to explain it, man. But the music started up, and I'm like, oh my God, my childhood.
Yeah.
Because I played that shit when I was 6 or 7.
Oh yeah.
And then what was that one game? It was like almost like Bejeweled, but it was Pokemon. Do you remember that?
I don't.
No.
Okay, it was like it's like put together the blocks and it like deletes the 3 blocks and shit, but it was Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and this is back in like 2002 on the 64. It was crazy. It was.
I don't remember that one.
Never find it, man. But it was fun game to play.
Oh, you know what was the best about? No, hold on. You know what was the best about Stadium? The mini games. The mini games. Yeah.
Those are greght. Lick a tongue and everything.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off.
No. We can just make this whole episode just about 64 nostalgia.
Yeah.
Well, on Xbox Game Pass recently, they brought back all the Rareware games. So I've been playing GoldenEye and like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie. So they're all on Xbox Live Game Pass now. So I don't know if they're also on PlayStation Plus, or I don't know if like what the license, because Nintendo's pretty like sketchy with licensing stuff out.
They are.
But these are games. This is just my own base knowledge, which is not very high to be said, but I think it's just Rareware games that were like that studio Rareware that made them. I think those have been licensed out to Xbox now. So there's some partnership between the two. So they're all on. There are a bunch of old 64 games now on Xbox Live Game Pass. So I've been playing GoldenEye on my Xbox.
I haven't played GoldenEye in like 20 years, more than 20 years.
Upstairs. They also have all the. Well, these are. I don't know if these are PlayStation games. They have all the Spyro games.
Those are PlayStation.
Yeah, well, my spouse has been playing. They beat through all 3 of the first 3 Spyros. They have 100% of the Spyro.
I didn't Crash Bandicoot, bro.
Crash Bandicoot's on there too. Yeah. It's all, Xbox Game Pass is actually like kind of worth it. Not to plug for Xbox, to shill for Xbox, but it's like I don't know. I paid like $20 a month.
Microsoft insider here,
bro. Well, we are in the heart of Microsoft, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, in Seattle here.
Yeah.
What area are you from, if you don't mind saying?
California, Central Valley of California.
Okay.
So it's like a little bit of bumfuck nowhere. Low key.
No.
Like, it's not the nice parts of California. It's not like LA or like fucking San Fran. It's just cornfields
nice.
and rednecks.
Okay.
And,
See, I prefer that. I'm from southwest. I'm from Arizona, southern Arizona. So
San Jose was pretty fucking nice. I'm not gonna lie. It is like that like Silicon Valley bullshit, but I do like the temperature and like
that's north. That's outside. That's in the San Francisco Bay.
that's just south of San Francisco.
I've been there once. I went to a Smash Brothers Melee tournament there.
A Smash Brothers Melee tournament.
Yeah.
No, San Jose is chill. I feel like.
Yeah, I went to Genesis. Genesis 4,
Yeah.
I think was the Melee tournament I went to.
Yeah,
It was one of the big.
this guy traveled to another state to go to a Smash Brothers.
I
Melee
traveled all
tournament.
over to go to
Oh
Smash
my
Brothers
God.
tournaments. I used to be like a pretty hardcore Smash Brothers player.
Well,
I still play Netplay.
oh my god!
Smash Brothers
Oh, yeah.
tournaments. There's a GameCube controller on my computer desk.
Fuck, man, let's
Yeah.
play together. What the fuck are we
Yeah,
doing?
sure, man.
Absolutely.
I still play Melee.
Yeah,
I'll never
man.
die. Anyway, that was a weird intro, but hey, man. PokePreet on you're biggest on TikTok, right? That's kind of like your main platform of choice.
Yeah,
Twitter.
TikTok, and then I got YouTube, and then I don't know, Spotify, Apple Pod,
Mhm.
everything. Yeah.
And we'll have all the links in the descriptions, both the audio and video format of this. We'll have all of your links in your link trees, and anything else you want us to add it down there will be included.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's always his videos are always sticking out to me. Because it'd be like these white girls and everything, and in the comes this brown, it's a Stalinist.
Very radical, yeah.
Very
like in between the
radical.
TikTok dances, yeah.
Got the fucking Stalin stash and shit. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this guy, if he doesn't blow up, he's gonna get assassinated. That's like there's two things that are gonna happen, and I really hope you blow up and don't get
Yeah,
assassinated.
please don't get assassinated.
Of course, I'll try not to.
Yeah,
Oh
we've had 2 weeks recently of just like really cool like TikTok content creators. We had Season the Mean shirts on a couple weeks ago, and then now you, and just both the content is just so funny, and like I don't know, I find it really inspiring to see just like really clear, concise, like leftist content that is palatable for what we call like normies, right? For people that like is a good like entry, a gateway radicalization process.
I mean, people are so brain rotted nowadays, and like they have no fucking attention span. Like you can't really. And also, I mean, even telling like the masses like go read Das Kapital Bozo, like that doesn't work, obviously. So like,
yeah,
I feel
all 3
like
volumes.
it's good for agitprop at least a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to discount it. It is important to read theory still. Like we definitely are. We're advocates for Marxist
How many people
literature.
can read anymore?
But I mean, how many
At this
people can
point.
read? First of all, but also how many people are just going to sit down and read like all 3 volumes of Capital, right? Like that's just that's not practical to ask somebody. I haven't either. I feel bad. I haven't, but I mean, I've read a lot of Marxist.
Bro, it's like reading Shakespeare. I feel like you.
Well, I have a complete. Shakespeare.
I know, but like I'm talking about like the literal terminology that the guy uses.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here. I'm like, I want to understand, but you're speaking something I don't understand.
Yeah,
to a certain extent, and so like it helps when you have people that have read it, are highly educated in it, or even somebody like Dr. Wolf, who's very educated in general and like history of the Soviet Union and Marxism, kind of explain it to you, especially for like the base normie. And like a lot of people have been influenced by, Richard Wolff to enter into the realm of Marxism because he just explains it so well. He's not perfect, but like, hey man, he did his job.
Yeah. I mean, I won't bad talk Richard Wolff because like I want him on my pod too, but like
I reached out, they didn't reply.
Me too. I don't agree with like everything he says, like especially his like focus on like worker co-ops, but also I think like we need to dumb down Marxist language. Like Marxism has such a tendency to become overly intellectual and self-isolating from the masses.
Yeah, 100%.
And like you can't be afraid to like dumb down our language, talk to the average Joe, and it doesn't mean like we're being revisionist or we're getting rid of our ideals or ideas, but it's like if you can't explain Marxism to somebody who's illiterate, you're not a Marxist, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because if you can't get the average Joe behind you, you're not going to get anywhere. Because 50-60% of the population minimum is the average Joe. 10-15% is just brain broken, brain rotted. And then you have like the 15% of people that you can have an intellectual conversation with. With those people, you'll speak to them as if you're speaking to another commie, and you can have an actual conversation and break down, terminology and break down ideas of social construction. But when you're turning around speaking to the average Joe, you can't, start speaking about dialectical materialism. They're like, what the fuck are you on about, commie?
No, absolutely.
You got to talk to them about like, hey, that guy right there, he gives you very little money. He takes all money.
Yeah.
He's your enemy.
What was that like that classic meme of like trying to say communist things without saying communist things? It's just apes together strong, and it's just the Planet of the Apes, like apes together strong. Yeah,
Definitely.
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, you gotta use apes together strong language like all the time.
Yeah, apes together strong. Oh, well, I have these conversations a lot too because I go to a lot of doctor parties, right? And so like I'm with I met a bunch of like fancy doctor parties pretty often. My spouse is an MD, and we're going to a doctor party tonight. That's where it is. It's like a house show. And so I've had these and then my spouse loves to bring up the fact that I'm a communist. That's how like they introduce me, which I'm like, you really need to stop doing that. But basically, and so it's a great icebreaker at parties. But then they're like, oh, what does that mean? So like I have these varying levels of conversations almost like weekly now because of like that's how I get introduced to everyone as just the communist. I'm like the communist guy in like our friend group, and I'm like, okay, well, I would like more of an identity than that, but it's fine, I guess. So I don't know. I've had these conversations, and you're kind of right. It's like based on like who you're talking to. Like tonight, not to be super like classist or elitist, but I'm going to a party full of doctors. These people are like professionals with advanced degrees, and so I'm going to use like more intellectual language. Yeah. But then if I were at like just a bar or whatever, just talking to people and introduce me, we got to bleep same every time. I don't
know how many times I bleep in an episode.
Episode. I'm really bad at this. They just don't want their name out. So. Yeah, and when we're at like a bar or whatever, I use like slightly like I don't want to say dumbed down language, but just like less intellectual and less.
So if you're a bit intoxicated,
yeah,
you're not talking to
I'm not trying
educated aristocrats that are drunk like
like they probably don't know who Hegel is or whatever. I'm not going to talk about Hegelian, whatever. And it's like
I mean, the idea of like an intellectual is such like a bourgeois concept, and it's based on exclusion, right? Like you use language that's sort of exclusive. And things
excludes
like
working class people, sure.
And then like the Marxist position, I think, has always been that everybody is an intellectual, right? Like they just don't have the right language or the right social status, but they can be an exercising intellectual in their like own way. Gramsci wrote a lot about that, actually. Yeah.
That was Season Memes. He was on. He was talking a lot about Gramsci. His profile picture is Gramsci, and he was a big Gramsci stan. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Exactly. We don't hear a lot about Gramsci anymore.
Man, but again, like it's not like I'm the most fucking well read either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Because people have different types of learning strategies. They have different types of learning behaviors, and I'm one that like I'm with my ADHD. I'm a visual learner, man. I can't. If you were like here, opened up this book, it's like I can read the book, but I got to read the paragraph 3 times. I get through a book like every 6 months, right? I'm still stuck on Yanis Varoufakis, techno-feudalism right now. I'm like in the last 15 pages and I have to force myself to finish to start a new book, right? But you put on a documentary and I will like with the photographic memory, remember everything in that documentary because I'm such a visual learner. And that's why I love like editing these videos because like, I'm like, how can I express how I learn to other people that have like that same type of learning capability? It's not that these people are stupid. It's just that these people have a hard time receiving and understanding a concept through words. If you're an auditory listener, people like to listen to podcasts and they learn the most that way. But for me, it's like, hey, you want me to do something? Show me how to do it once and you'll never have to talk to me again.
See, I'm the opposite. I don't like to watch things like that. Like if we're like trying to research like a news article or whatever, I would rather just read like the AP article. Because I can read faster than I can watch a video, and if I watch a video like that, it's got to be like 1.5 speed or something. And so I don't know, but I like reading, and I'm a reader. So I've read 16 of these I'm booked 16 of this fantasy series in the last like couple months, and so like I just
Christ.
But I don't like watching YouTube and stuff. But I mean, I think everyone's different, and you're right. Like as an educator, as an actual teacher, you're 100% right. That is how kids are, and like that's how we teach. Yeah.
These Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're gonna be. Not necessarily brain broken, but like
they are. They are.
They are.
They consume content, the way they consume education.
Same. I teach freshman history. I'm a freshman high school history teacher.
They're so brain rotted.
They're 100% brain rotted.
Yeah.
We're doomed. We're cooked, chat.
We really are, dude. Like it's all just TikTok sounds in the classroom now. Like,
dude, I just hear skibbity whatever like all day.
What the hell? What the hell?
Oh my days! What the hell? Literally, that's all I hear all day, dude. Yeah. Are you a teacher or you work with kids?
I'm like a teacher's aide, sort of like in between.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I teach 9th grade like world studies, like world history in Seattle, and it is a trip because it's just 14 and 15-year-olds and they're all brain rotted out.
They are
Yeah, but then you got to get their attention somehow. You know?
No, I mean it's
absolutely
it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
All right,
Like it's fun to talk like them.
man.
Yeah.
It is fun to talk. Okay,
Yeah, I'll put in my
generation.
assignments. Like most recently, or one of the recent things is like they had to write an essay, and I was like, all right, Chad, I want these essays to rizz me up, and that was like the motto in the class, dude. And so the kids thought it was the fucking funniest thing in the world, and so they were like, yeah, they really tried because they were bought in and they wanted those essays to rizz me up, and I was like, okay, cool. So
what did Lenin say? He's like, just give me one of your generation. Just give me one generation, and I'll like revolutionize pretty much the entire society.
I love hanging out with them, but yeah, they are brain rotted to all hell.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're more like visual learners this generation than readers, and a lot of them are functionally illiterate because COVID failed them. Like COVID 100%. Education absolutely failed them. Like we're going to be seeing those effects like for decades now.
Yeah, we graduated. I was at graduation this week and this past week for our senior class, and that was the class that I think was the most affected by COVID. I think now we're going to be on the backside of this thing. I think it's going to be better each year now. I would argue that this class of 2025 was by far the most affected. I think their COVID was like 7th, 8th, 9th, and that's like where most like
people leave social skills.
You develop social skills. You develop a lot of like research skills. That's where like your first kind of research papers and stuff happen. Like it's where your first like library visits and shit happen. I mean, like I don't know, there's a lot that happens in those years, and I've taught now 7th, 8th, and 9th, and I think over my experience, and I've only been teaching for 4 years, so I'm not like some sage expert, but in my experience, I think those are like, because I started teaching during COVID. I started teaching on like Zoom school, and and like the tail end of it, like that the year after 2021 basically. And so like I think, knock on wood, I think we're on the other side of it now. I think this class of 25 was the most affected, and like every subsequent class will be less and less affected.
You seem to disagree.
I don't know. Yeah,
because like especially the kids that were like kindergartners, preschoolers that were on Zoom, they got no stability.
They got nothing.
Oh, man, that is very true. There's
so
a
like,
lot of those.
I think there will be some fundamental like grammar and stuff that you learn in those classes, but I think that can be easily made up. I think the thing with like the current, like this generation of like current 18-year-olds, give or take, is like your freshman year is when you learn like a lot. That's like your basic algebra and stuff, and like the foundations for a lot of your future like college and high school stuff is all learned like in 8th, 9th grade. And so I think that's like foundationally. I like to see some of
that statistics. Some of
I don't know. I might be talking out of my ass. This is just purely anecdotal from my experience. And I'm one school in Seattle. I'm like a liberal arts school in Seattle. So I have, you know what I mean. That's all I have to go on.
Hard.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird teaching at like an incredibly progressive like liberal school.
Yeah. I mean, we do live in a progressive area. I mean, just driving on the way here, I look up on a bridge and there's like a Lebanese flag, a Palestinian flag, a bunch of Arab flags, and people are like just holding their fist up, doing, you know, the straight socialist fist salute up in the air. And I'm just like, hong, 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 hong. The guy in front of me was like, oh shit, he's pissed.
Well, I moved here from Arizona, which is a different vibe altogether. It's just MAGA trucks everywhere you go. And then I came to Seattle and it's just pride flags everywhere. I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice. Yeah. This is
like, listen, we're kind of fucked, but I do see progress with this next generation, and just the people in general right now are kind of like slowly heading towards the realization that the mess America has gotten itself into and everything that is happening is because of capitalism. I think people are just starting to understand what
the young generation knows that. They like completely understand that like their world is fucked, and they're way more radicalized than like I think we were at that age. Or at least
absolutely. I mean, I think they're a lost generation almost. Like, because like climate change, like they don't really have a guaranteed future, and they're born like, at least millennials had like false hope when they were growing up, you know, like it's like, oh, you're going to go to college, the economy is going to be great. And then 2008 happened.
Yeah. 2008. I was what, 18, 19. No, I was 20. I was 20 when 2008 happened. And so like, I was like, oh, okay, well, there goes my future. I'm never flying home again.
The last year of millennials, right? Yeah. So like I had somewhat had that, but somewhat didn't. I knew it was kind of everything was going to go on the downturn, but like maybe I can sneak myself into there before everything goes to shit. No, everything just went to shit, bro. Went to shit. Oh my god.
Well, what did Mark say? Like the every 10 years, like an economic crisis, and so it's pretty much spot on. 2008, then again in 2020. You know.
Yeah. Dude, oh my god, I can't wait for the next one.
Now, here we go.
The next crash.
5 more years.
The end of Trump's era was going to be like this absolute catastrophic crash.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already getting there because, you know, with COVID and everything and hyperinflation happening. And now we're basically living in a pseudo fascist state. If we didn't already live in it, it's going to get worse and worse, man. Tariffs with China, regular commodities are just going to get hyper expensive, and people are going to be like, I can't even buy regular shit off of Amazon anymore. Amazon's gonna see like people buy less and less because people are gonna get like less, like more poor, basically.
Oh, funny.
I mean, we don't know. We almost don't need propaganda. Capitalism itself is radicalizing enough.
It's just
it's
doing our job for us. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. You just have to you got to be the person. We have to be the people for them to connect the dots.
Yeah.
They obviously understand that something is fucking wrong. This is obviously isn't working, and then when that your video pops up on TikTok, and then you're like, this isn't working because of this. They're like, oh,
yeah. I think that's like
makes sense. That's a good Marxist shit.
That's a good point, because that is like I think one of the fundamental jobs of like Marxists is to like guide those disenfranchised and like disillusioned people, because you don't want them going down like either the QAnon or the MAGA or like, the anti-Semitic, because like, it's like, oh, the world's all broken, let's blame the Jews type thing. And it's like, you see that with the QAnon take is like, and we this is a theme, we talk about this often, of like, understanding that capitalism is a problem, understanding that oligarchy is a problem, understanding that like this world is not meant for like regular working class people, and then blaming the Jews, and then blaming immigrants. It's like getting there, but not quite understanding. And then so like, that's the job. That's where I see the job of the Marxists is to come in and with like
basically wingman.
We're 100%. Just
societal wingman. You know how you're trying to constantly guide your friends into a I'm using man's terminology here, right? Like I'm talking to the average Joe. How your job is the wingman.
We're entertaining it.
Exactly. You're at a bar and you're like, dude, we're gonna get you laid, bro. Come on. I'm like, look, listen, hey, my friend thinks you're cute. He's like, you should give him your number or your Snap or whatever the Discord what they're asking for these days. I don't even know.
It's not really a Snap anymore.
Yeah, no. God, I'm getting.
But
anyways, you're trying to guide him to like all these women, so he has more experience, and your friend is happy.
That's
right.
The job
well, our job as Marxists and socialists in general and communists is to like see people's frustration and then guiding them to the correct answer of why that frustration exists. Right. Yeah. And so I think that is hyper important. We have to be that wingman, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, the working class needs like organic intellectuals, because like the bourgeoisie, their organic intellectuals are everywhere. They're in universities, they're in news media. Like Tucker Carlson, I think.
I wouldn't call him organic though.
Just like an intellectual that arises naturally out of a system and like represents a class, And so we need like organic intellectuals that represent the working class, and create like a counter hegemony to the predominant hegemony, a hegemony being like sort of like ideological control or narrative.
Yeah, we talked about this recently of like the right is so much better at this than we are.
Absolutely.
Of like the Tucker Carlsons and the Ben Shapiros and the all these people that they have. That's like, if you get that radicalized, you're easily funneled toward one of these guys. Tim Pool. There's any one of these.
The algorithm's already set up on whatever platform you want.
But that's what we're saying. We don't have anybody that's comparable to that. We joked that it was Hassan Piker's the best we got on the left, and it's like
he is.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that's not a joke. I mean, it is a joke, but it's like not that he's a joke. But
earlier is like one Turkish man can only do so much.
Yeah, and that's all we have, really. And that's why we need people like Cesar Means and like PokePreet and like you guys to like, we need your channels to blow up to hit 100,000 subs and stuff, so that we can get more of these like just content creator voices that can just guide people, not like for the sake of like making money or for the sake of selling merch, but just to actually guide these people, because
you get a couple of bucks along the way.
Well, sure, but I mean, like, but the problem is like that's what Tim Pool's in it for, and that's what Ben Shapiro's in it. It's like it's about money.
My thought on it is like, if I could do this full time as a job, I would. And it's not about the money; it's about what the money can do for you. Because if you make enough money doing something like political commentatorship, then you don't have to work your other job, and you can fully focus on this to make your content better, to get more people to come to you, right? Sure. It's like allowing your hobby to liberate you so you can actually live freely.
Yeah.
Right. Which is very hard. So I don't mean like, oh, I'm making 20 grand on the side and just keep doing. It's like, no, I want to make enough money so I can quit my job and do this full time as my job.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be the dream. I mean, I want to retire. I mean, I don't retire.
We just started working.
I don't know. I've been working for a while. I'm old, but I just, I don't know. I like teaching. But I don't want to leave teaching.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't like work. So like, there's that side of it too, where I don't want to just work. Period.
Yeah, you don't want to work for anybody unless I mean, well, it's not that you don't want to work for anybody, except you don't want to work for anybody. I want to, in a Marxist aspect, if you are working in a Marxist economy, you are working for yourself. Right? You're working for the people. You're working as a community, and there's no actual boss, if that makes any sense. Because in a Marxist economy, you are the boss. Everybody is the boss. Sure. It's a democratic economy.
Yeah. I think to some extent that actually lends to more hard work, actually, because like if we're all running it communally, and especially like when Marx envisioned like full communism, he envisioned like an end to the division of labor. So like our very like rigid roles we have. So like people take on multiple roles at the same time, or like within a workplace. And so I think to some extent it may actually be more work, but it'll be fulfilling in a way, right? Like
more
be like
fulfilling work. Yeah. Like teaching, and like the feeling I get from teaching, that for everything.
Exactly. That's you like that, and the problem is not the teaching aspect. It's the work and showing up and having a boss and being told what to do, what you can tell them, what you have all these criterias which you don't agree with, or you kind of have to. It's forced upon you versus like. When you go to teach in a Marxist economy, in a Marxist society, and you're going to school, like I can't wait to go teach these kids about why we got to keep this Marxist. It's almost like you're doing a deed to society by going to the workplace. You have a role in society. You don't feel like your life is worthless. You are part of society, right? In a capitalist aspect, you're going to work to make money so you can live.
Yeah, work is alienating under capitalism. So it's alienating, and it's distracting, and it's just disillusioning.
And a lot of these like libertarians, like they kind of get it, They're like, I hate taxes, I hate the workplace, I want to work for myself. It's like,
absolutely,
you want to work. It's like, no, I understand that, but it's like you're not understanding, like in your own head, why you want to do that.
You don't see the bigger
work
picture
for yourself because you want to make so much extra money. You don't want to work for yourself because you hate the structure of the, the system, of what your job is, of the economy in general. You want to take life.
I was talking to my friend, and I think he mentioned Foucault or something like that. But like Foucault was talking about how like the petty bourgeois and the bourgeois, they analyze the own society they've created, right? So like it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You create a class society, you analyze that class society, people are naturally poor, whatever. And like libertarianism is exactly that. Like Ayn Rand's philosophy, objectivism, it's basically just be as greedy as possible. You don't owe anybody anything. And somehow that creates like an equitable, amazing world. Like that creates the best outcomes for everybody. Like if you do the most greedy option for yourself. And she's just analyzing capitalism and arriving to like almost a sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? She's looking at the results of capitalism. She's saying this is natural, and so let's just do more of it. And that's where libertarians falter, right? They're not able to pull the curtain behind society and look at like class struggle and more objective things.
Yeah, just taking it very surface level as they see it, and and that sounds like a literal nightmare. That's like that's a dystopian
sociopath.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, Ayn Rand was 100% a sociopath.
She was. Yeah.
Like 100%.
Scene. It's like a documentary on Netflix. It's from a couple of years ago, but I think it just came back out onto Netflix today. It's about Hunter Moore and like the basically the revenge porn site that he set up.
Oh, I remember that. That was in like the mid 2000s, like the emo phase.
They made a documentary. You should watch it. It's really good.
I forget the name of that website, but yeah, we used to go to that website.
Really? Yeah. No, it was Anyone Up. Is Anyone Up?
Is Anyone Up? Yeah.
Yeah. And basically,
I forgot about that.
It was like they're like it's not illegal at that point because there's no laws against it.
Yeah.
And they're like he would go on to Gary Cooper or whatever, Anderson Cooper, and like a couple of other shows.
Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy was posted on there.
Oh my god.
Like, it was like nude leaks before there was like a such thing as like nude leaks. Yeah.
And he's like, don't you care? Like you're ruining these people's lives. Like people have committed attempted suicide. People have done all these things to themselves. You're creating self-doubt in people, or you're destroying lives basically. And it turned out that most of those pictures were from a guy that he hired to hack people's accounts with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But anyways, they're like, well, he's like, well, I don't care. It's like I didn't post them. I just have the site, and people should feel bad for posting them. He's like, I'm making a ton of money. I don't give a fuck about these people.
Yeah.
Right. That's basically Ayn Rand. That's basically the whole idea behind
that's just any capitalist, right? Or any
like survival of the fittest. I'm doing everything selfishly for myself to make as much money as possible. And their whole idea behind there is like the people who are going to make more money are going to be more innovative because they want to make more money. And if your innovation is based upon making as much money as possible, you're basically setting up for a classist divide, because whoever has more money can invest more in innovation.
It falls on its own logic anyways, because eventually at some point your individual self is exploiting somebody else's individual liberties. Like that's what capitalists do to us all the time, but they're not really able to see that. Like they think like we exist in some sort of vacuum. Also, I mean, going back a little, we were busting Gen Alpha's balls, but I will say, like, most of my followers are Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
They're pretty smart. they know what they're doing. Like they're very aware of class society, and they read. So I mean, I just think like in the classroom they're just acting wild. But other than that, like they do have a very radical, like I think they're the most radical generation, either right wing or left wing, like either way, because capitalism has failed this generation so much more than any other. I think.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think they were also raised like on the right wing side of it too. Like I taught 7th and 8th grade at like the height of Andrew Tate's like personality, or when he was like at his biggest, and so like that, like dealing with like 8th grade boys who were like obsessed with Andrew Tate was like a daily occurrence and stuff.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong, yeah, and like that's
I'm an alpha male, alpha.
Yeah, it's like a 12-year-old kid
Right.
asking me how many Bugattis I own, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up, kid. Like, how many do you own? The same number as you, actually.
The
But
same
yeah,
number as anybody in the school.
yeah.
Single person
I
has the
was
fucking
working in South Phoenix, Arizona, like in a poor district in Arizona. And just like, yeah, dude. But no, you're right. I mean, so like, yeah, they are equally as divided. But they're like, well, I didn't phrase that correctly, but you know what I mean. Like they are. Yeah, you're right. They are the most, I think, radically politicized, either right or left. And I think I think that's just comes down to like they need proper guidance and mentorship and like just people in education to like to break the mold of that. Luckily, Andrew Tate is not as influential by 10% as much how much he was 4 years ago. But like 3-4 years ago, I mean, you couldn't go anywhere on the internet without seeing Andrew Tate.
It's like you can obviously see the change and the right wing propaganda because like they obviously realize it's not working, so they try to give it another hack, a different like path, right? Because prior we had fucking Alex Jones. That was like, you know, we had Rush Limbaugh, then Alex Jones, and Alex Jones eventually turned into a Rush Limbaugh, right? With a video camera and just a little bit more fucking psychotic of takes. And then Andrew Tate comes in. And it's like, what is that? Then next we have Nick Fuentes, right? So you see this like neoconservative, and then you have this like fucking conspiracy conservative, and then you have alpha male, and now we're going into fascism.
It's
almost like a
fascist,
yeah. It's like almost a pipeline, and it's also ironic that the motherfucker's name Fuentes, you know, is like
Yeah, so, he's like half Hispanic, I think. Also, it's weird because like I was watching an interview with him, and he sort of third positioned himself into being a communist because like Haas was asking him, and you know the MAGA communist guys, I don't really like them, but Haas was asking him, would you support China? Who would you support in a war, America or China? He was like, China. So like, I don't know. He's like third position himself. Like it's such a weird, like these third positioners have sort of third positioned themselves into almost being like against America on Russia and China. So I don't know. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Like that's a weird thing on the right is like this pro-Russia stance.
The same guy, Nick Fuentes, was turning around and fucking basically criticizing Trump and the Republican Party for being pro-Israel. Yeah. And it's not, and obviously right now everybody's like fuck Israel, right? Every normal sane person is turning around and saying fuck Israel. But he's saying fuck Israel because he's like an actual anti-Semite because he hates Jews and not because he hates this.
Not because he hates genocide.
So it makes him look like he's, you know, free Palestine. He's pro.
He's certainly not. He just doesn't like Jews.
Absolutely.
He doesn't like Arabs either, for what it's worth. He just also doesn't like Jews.
It's like somebody like does not like Zionism, doesn't like Israel, and then they listen to his podcast and be like, you know, this guy got a couple of good points. I don't agree with him on everything, and then the more they
that's what happens. Yeah, that's the gateway. Yeah,
fascist state.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Andrew Tate, he almost sounds like an anti-capitalist sometimes. You know, like
he talks about class consciousness a lot. He is like class aware for sure. It's like again, it's the wrong take. He doesn't take it to its full. Like he doesn't follow that logic to the end.
Yeah,
but he gets some of the ways, and that's the theme we talk about all the time. Is like you not being able to get there because the path of like QAnon, MAGA, like extreme, like conspiracy theorists, like Christo-fascists and communists is a very similar path up until it diverges as to like the why behind it. But you can ride that line with those people for a while, and like obviously, like it will diverge. I'm not saying like the horseshoe theory bullshit or anything like that. I'm saying that like understanding like that it's capitalism, understanding the oligarchy, understanding this like deep state idea, all of these things that we've talked about. But then once they diverge, that's the big crux point right there, and that's the most important part, I think.
I think that's what's so appealing about these radical ideologies over like neoliberalism, because neoliberalism can't really explain, or at least mainstream neoliberalism can't really explain why our society is so broken right now, right? It's just sort of like, oh, this is normal. we're doing great. I don't want to admit anything's wrong. Like, that was the Democratic Party platform. It was just, nothing is wrong. We're not going to fix anything because there's nothing to fix.
Everything's fine in Boston say, you know?
Yeah, and people don't take that bullshit. So, you know, of course, these right-wing ideologies are very appealing because they're almost materialist, right? Like, they're almost doing a materialist class analysis, and they diverge at the last minute. Like,
but then they diverge at the last minute. Yeah, but exactly. So, like, but they do appeal to that. It's like, yeah, you're right. Your dollar isn't as working as far as, you are working too many hours, and it's like they have that class analysis.
Yeah.
But they just do it in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And they have that class analysis, and that's why we have to pick up arms, execute everybody in politics, and install a fascist regime and kick out all these immigrants and Jews, right? And then do a book ban, fucking deport transgender people.
That's why I think ultimately, like, more people are radicalized to the right than the left, because like we were saying, we don't have people on that, or at least I think also there's we're always at a data disadvantage is because we don't have like that grifter aspect of it too. Whereas like, I don't think anybody on the left who's in good faith would go on and like create that platform to try to like get people in and lie or like mislead or whatever.
The majority of leftists is like, listen, you might not agree with fully with everything they say. You know, even some sock dems, you might not agree with what they say, but they believe what they say, right? And then on the other hand, like, you think Andrew Tate believes what he says? He's like, no, dude, the dude's an absolute grifter. Whatever makes him money, he will do, right? That's why he's got the Bugatti, right? He's not focused on class awareness or class consciousness, or even like fighting societal problems like sexism or anything. He's focused on getting his money, and he's putting that whole ideology out there, right? It's almost like an Ayn Rand situation. It's like she had now analyzed capitalism, and it's not that capitalism essentially is wrong. It's just, this is the way it is. You might as well manipulate it, and you just
get what's yours.
Yeah, it's a sociopathic view. Right. Yeah. And on the other side, Nick Fuentes actually I believe that Nick Fuentes believes what he says.
Yeah, it's hard to know how many of these people believe what they believe. Because like, I know Tucker Carlson doesn't believe anything he says. He's just saying it for dollars. He'll say whatever script is put in front of him.
And those are the neocons.
Yeah.
The propagandists.
Yeah. And I don't know like how many of these people actually believe. Like, I don't know if Ben Shapiro believes what he says, right? Like, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think some of them, 90% of them are like just paid fucking.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, it's like Tim Pool and like all of these internet personality guys. And like, are you really that much of a believer, or do you recognize that this just is what gives you the money? Like Steven Crowder is like, does Steven Crowder really believe in all of these like things, or is it just because he gets paid to say these things?
Hey man, he's like, I think he's well aware of what the right wing is, but he still does it.
Right? Oh, you're talking about Dave Rubin?
No, Steven Crowder's gay as fuck.
You think Steven Crowder's gay?
I think Steven Crowder is a secretly wants to be a transgender person.
Yeah, he cross dresses a lot. Cross dresses a lot.
Well, I know he cross dresses a lot as like.
But yes, you're right. What you just said about the other person is.
Yeah, Dave Rubin is gay. He's married to a man, but he's also a right wing.
Steven Crowder, 100% in the closet.
I don't know anything about that. You think Steven Crowder is a closeted gay?
Absolutely. I put my $2,000 in my savings on it.
Come over to our side. It's way better on our side.
I don't want any grifters on our side.
Well, I don't want to. Yeah, that's fair. I don't want any grifters on our side. Well, I want to go back to what you said too, because you were talking about like the ineffectual like aspects of the Democrat, like neoliberal, like modern liberalism. And you're right. And this is something we've talked about before, is why we would rather talk to and like discuss politics and like frankly hang out with Republicans than Democrats if given the choice.
Yeah, I can agree to that, low key, because like I'm in an area with rednecks, and it's like you can sort of get close to like class consciousness with rednecks, where like liberals, they sort of
never
have
gonna
this,
pierce
like,
that
classism. There's like a little bit of like inherent classism and elitism, especially towards like poor people. Like these narratives, like, oh my god, a hurricane hit a red state. Well, you get what you voted for. Like that's genuinely evil.
It's awful.
I think.
That's like that's sociopathic behavior, and you only see that from Democrats. Like, and well, no, you don't only see it, because you'll see it like, oh, like if a hurricane hit Seattle, they'd be like, oh, that's what you get for whatever. But like,
it's a certain,
it's a large section of the Democrats. But yeah, and I just like, yeah, you're 100% right. But I also we've gone on record of saying like I would rather hang out with a Republican because I'm much more likely to convert or like de-radicalize or de-brainwash, like what do you call it, deprogram a Republican than I like. You can't get through a Democrat because Democrats don't think anything's wrong. So like. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't tell them what the actual cause of their problem is if they don't think they have a problem. Whereas a Republican recognizes.
That happened in my family. My uncle's like a Trump voting whatever, and he found my videos on TikTok, and he came up to me one day and he's like, oh, tell me more about Stalin or like socialist Russia. Like it was cool, right? And
a Democrat would never do that.
Yeah, and I don't think he's like a full, like, he's not gonna ever become like a communist, but at least his like mind is opening a little bit, like being a little bit more friendly. I just don't think, and then like my liberal family members or friends have found my videos and they're like, dude, I disagree. But like, I can't really push them that much.
Yeah. Because like I said, because at least your Republican, the Republicans in our lives, they recognize that something is wrong or something is broken. They don't understand why, or they're misguided as to why, but they recognize that it is broken.
That's why
Democrats
the
don't.
Republicans are always like, I don't trust the government.
Yeah.
I was like, you're getting there. You're getting there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hear me out. Do you have like 3 hours and I can break down the entire history?
I can get you if I had 3 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go buy a 6-pack and give me a couple hours and I'll get you. Yeah.
You'll be a fucking radical fucking
I
commie
believe that.
by
I
the
believe
end
that
of
if I have enough, like you have a few beers or over dinner or whatever with right leaning people, you're much more likely to come away with like consensus and like at least like finding common ground than you ever would be with like a liberal.
Because there's that facade. It's like a narcissism. It's like we
it's
know the
classism,
Republicans are wrong
narcissism.
because they're idiots. And then like when you bring something up that they don't agree with again, they're like, I know you're wrong because you're an idiot as well. Republicans are like they don't know what's right or wrong.
And I shouldn't
they
blame
just know
Republicans. I just mean like right-leaning people.
right-leaning people in general. They know that something is wrong. They don't know what it is, but for now it's the government and the Democrats, right? Unless you can convince them otherwise, and we can convince them otherwise.
Well.
Yeah, and like a lot of Democrats' sense of normalcy is just like neoliberalism, right? And it's like that's what they want to return to. Like the most we can currently get out of our Democratic politicians is returning to Obama's tax policies on the rich. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's not even good enough. Like, that's
like
even
the bar. That's such a low bar.
I know that's like lower than Reagan. That's lower than fucking Reagan.
That's what I'm saying.
Reagan.
Like, they would want to get like back. I was just about to say that. Like, like a modern Democrat's like idea of a good time is like Reagan era economics, and it's like so that's you're just something that, or what would arguably be worse is Obama era economics. Yeah,
absolutely. The Overton window has swung so far to the right that Obama, which would have been a Republican in the 80s, is now somehow a center leftist.
Liberal. Yeah,
it's like in the fuck, man.
Yeah, I
was like, because what we're at like 21% for business tax, and during Obama it was like 28%, right? But during Reagan it was up in the higher 20s, lower 30s.
Yeah,
right?
6 or something. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like even Reagan had possibly a more progressive business tax, private business tax than Obama did. Yeah. It's this facade. It's this narcissistic take that what they are doing is correct and they will never be wrong.
Yeah.
And those are hard to sway. Susan's hard to sway.
Yeah, and I think like the reason it's worth talking about this for 20 minutes or however long we've been talking about it is because like that matters in elections. And like, not that I would ever support a Democrat, but not for nothing, that's the reason they're going to continue losing, is because it's just vibes based. Brad Summer, everything's fine, let's keep this party going. Versus Republicans who are like, hey, no, the world is messed up, and then people are like, oh yeah, the world is messed up, let's see what they have to say. But if you're just being told that there is no war and bossing say over and over, it's like, okay, well, I know that there is, and I'm just not going to listen to you anymore. So like Republicans will continue to win, and things will continue to fall further and further into like this fascist decay. And like, that's why it matters what these, like if Democrats would just acknowledge that there is a problem, like I think they would never lose an election again, because people don't like Republicans. They're weird. And like, nobody wants Trump. And I mean, like, not Trump, but like people by and large, like think Trump is like a doofus. And like, you know what I mean? If it had been anybody else besides Harris in 2024, like, Trump would have lost. And like,
absolutely,
if like, but like we were talking about this during that election,
ran Bernie's dead corpse against Trump, he would have lost.
Right. It's just like, yeah. And so it's just, that's the frustrating part, is if Democrats just like literally took a stance on literally anything, they would have such an advantage, and they just refuse to take a stance. They just want to take they just
see
want
who the front runner for 2028 is on the Democratic side.
Cory Booker, probably.
I think like Gavin Newsom.
Buttigieg. Oh my God. Yeah.
So Buttigieg.
Just this, like the bland milquetoast neoliberal people.
Hey, he grew out a beard now.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like a child anymore.
He got upset on Twitter once, and now he's like a radical.
His dad was a Marxist, so I mean,
he is definitely like a BlackRock CIA plant, though.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Oh my God,
100%. That guy
being a mayor of a small ass town to huge in Democratic politics.
Well, no, but he also worked. He worked for what was that? What's that like? The company he worked for, the
it was
McKinney, McKinsey, whatever the fuck. He's a BlackRock CIA guy. Yeah.
A lot of the people that worked for that company came out and eventually went to the CIA and worked for these huge Fortune 500 companies as huge fucking people, huge CEOs or part of their board of directors and stuff like that?
I had a teacher meeting recently, and like we always do like a random pleasantry, like icebreaker at the beginning of it, you know, which is usually kind of annoying, but this one was fun. And it was like, what's the one conspiracy theory you believe is true? And I was like, oh maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Now this is the moment I've been waiting for. I was born for this moment, so I was like, which one to choose? Like, yeah. I went with that George H.W. Bush almost certainly had a hand in JFK's assassination, because I'm pretty sure that's true. But
you should have gone with 9/11. You should.
Yeah, I was like, 9/11 was an inside joke. I was like, damn. Of all the conspiracy theories, I wanted to talk about my JFK.
You should fuck with him and be like, Obama is a Muslim Marxist.
Obama's a Muslim Marxist born in Kenya or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it is true. I mean, what the fuck was he doing in Dallas as a CIA agent when like JFK was I mean, it makes no sense.
No, there's so much evidence that he has like, if at least not a hand in it, at least knowledge of it prior or something. Like, I mean, they were watching Oswald. He was in Dallas as like that CIA section. We talked about this so much already. I'm obsessed with the story, but I'll bring it up any chance I get. But yeah, he's involved. He's involved, because there's also been, this is the most damning evidence, and this is like, it's kind of anecdotal or whatever, but it's like, sociologically, this is my most convincing piece of evidence, is that if you ask anybody who was alive during 9/11 where they were, they can tell you. If you wouldn't ask anybody who was alive during that assassination, they can tell you.
Yeah.
Bush has been asked where he was, and he's like stuttered, and he's told different stories, and he's told contradictory stories and stuff, and like he can't say where he was because he was fucking the one there. He can't say where he was because
John F. Kennedy. It was George Bush,
because so that's like, it's just that right there is a damning piece of evidence, is that he hasn't kept his story straight on where he was. And so I don't know, that's obviously it's superficial, but it's like, I don't know, I think that there's something there.
Absolutely.
That's a real mood killer when I start.
He was like Magneto, you know, with the
curbing that bullet.
The bullet.
Let's see your Venom shirt there. You a Marvel guy?
I fuck with Marvel. I don't read that many of the comics. The only comics I've read are the Miles Morales Spider-Man ones.
Okay, so, I was big into the Ultimates back in the day. The Ultimate Spider-Man universe, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and then the Ultimates. But I've never been much of a comic book reader.
I've never really been that much in the comics, period.
Yeah, I was a Marvel movie fan guy for a little while until I kind of like grew up.
I feel like Marvel movies ruined the American mind. I'm not gonna lie. Like, everything is now like, you know, like, oh my god, Israel is like Tony Stark, and Hezbollah is like,
I hate this.
I don't know, like Thanos or some shit. Like, I don't know. It's like,
Well, they were great until they made the 455th movie. You know, they just kept going, and it's.
I mean, I was bought in up until like the final like Infinity Saga ended.
Yeah.
And then post that, also that was coincidentally like 6 years ago or something, and so like I was, I kind of just grew out of them. I think
they should have just stopped, man.
Yeah, they should have stopped. I don't think there's been a good movie or show since then.
Yeah, they need to reboot the universe, in my opinion. Like, they've gotten way too much into like a writing wall, like low-key.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for this Pedro Pascal Fantastic Four. I might go see that. I haven't seen a Marvel movie in a long time, but I might see that one.
To a series, man.
I don't know.
Just make it into a series. It's like you're producing like 4,000 movies every 20 years. You might as well just make it into a series and just keep the series going. That way, whoever wants to pay attention, they don't have to think about like what 17 movies have you seen.
I mean, I will say that I haven't watched a Marvel series in a long time, but the last few I did watch were bad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say with the same production from the last one. They gotta stop with the fucking dad jokes. The dad jokes are over.
They just gotta take a break, man. Just like chill. You don't need to make 4 or whatever things a year. Like, it's all right, man. You don't need to saturate the market with. I don't know. I haven't watched any what I'm just calling vaguely Disney Plus content in a long time, because it all seems to be on Disney Plus. But except for Andor season 2, I really need to watch that.
I want to watch it.
I've watched the first season. I haven't seen the second season. That's the only Star Wars thing I'll go back and watch.
Apparently, it's like a Marxist analysis.
Yeah, the first season was really good. Yeah, it was kind of loosely. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was dealing with its own like Star Wars Empire bullshit, but it had like a lot to say about like the prison industrial complex and like Marxism and like classism and like empires and like atrocities and stuff. Yeah, it has a lot to. I think it has a lot of good things to say.
No, that's the thing. I feel like Hollywood's like very out of touch with like the masses, because like they're still making movies for like a non-class conscious world in a lot lot right? Like a sort of like an America that's like pre-2008 financial crash. Sorry. And like it's like a non-ideological world. Like that's a lot of the movies they're making. And so the movies that break through are like Parasite, or like, like you're saying, like Andor, or like even
these are the ones that are getting talked about. Yeah.
What was that one?
Severance.
No. Oh yeah, Severance.
Yeah.
Oh no. Star Wars. The Boba Fett guy. Hold on. Was that Andor?
Mandalorian. Yeah.
Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Pedro
it's based
Pascal.
on like there's like an episode based on like young Stalin's life or something like that.
Wait, what?
Where he like robs a bank or something.
Oh, it's they have to rob this train thing. Yeah. Or
But like
this,
I don't know, like these class
ore
conscious
processing.
stories break through. And traditional Hollywood, which like remains like non-ideological, most people can't relate to that shit anymore, man. Like we're not living in like a fantasy world where like there's no class antagonisms. You know, they're very obvious and glaring.
Yeah, Hollywood is the neoliberalism of the media world. Just everything is fine.
Everything is fine.
Not out of touch. Not really caught up with what's actually going on.
Yeah. Well, what's next for your podcast? What's next for your content? Got anything new coming up?
Next we're probably gonna go over State and Rev eventually, and then
nice.
Other than that, we've been interviewing like a lot of professors and things like that. Like they're not like inherently Marxist, but they're like on the left-ish. So like you know like their ideas are cool, all that you know.
Yeah, because Kanal was telling me your background's in history, right? That's what you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you ever get a chance, talk to Green and Red podcast. One of them is a climate activist. He's heavily involved in like American climate change activism. Excuse me. Climate change action, and the other one is a retired professor. He just retired, and he is a socialist professor. So
oh yeah, I listened to them. They're pretty dope.
Oh, do you?
Honestly.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
We had him on once. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be on that episode, but I want to get him back. So
we're trying to get them back. It's just hard to find them because they're in two different time zones. It's hard to get them on at the same exact time for us as well. And so we're planning that out. So we're gonna have them on again. Yeah. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah, try to talk to those guys if you haven't. They're cool.
Yeah, of course. And other than that, like we don't have anything planned so far. I don't know. Like everything comes last minute usually with us.
Yeah.
Well, what started you kind of down the path of like online like content creation? Like it's embarrassing. How'd you start?
It's embarrassing.
Okay.
I was just.
I want to hear it now.
Originally, I was just making like content to get a date or something. Like I was trying to find myself. I was trying to find myself like a Marxist or like a femboy, e-boy, some shit like that. Like a socialist, communist, Maoist. And so like a lot of my early content was like very fucking horny. I'm not even gonna lie. Like my
thirsty.
Yeah, I was like you know like when the Maoist femboy pegs me or some shit like that, you know. Like,
oh my god!
And then like I just kept on making.
Yeah, did it work?
Getting dates?
Never.
It's like, yeah, you know, it reminds me of, it's like when you're going to the gym, you want to go to the gym, you know, to look really good for the women, and the only people complimenting you are the dudes at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of reminds me of that.
No, my DMs are full of thirsty straight men, like all just thirsty straight men, like you know,
thirsty straight men.
Yeah. Like looking good, champ, or something like that. But
like, okay.
Just fellow bros trying to hype you up, you know?
Yeah,
nice.
The fellow bros are always trying to hook, you know, man. It's like, yeah, bro, it's like you always give me compliments. You're trying to fuck, like, what's going on?
I mean, let's talk.
Yeah.
I'm taking now, man. It's too late.
And then I just kept on making videos, and it transformed into its own thing, and now it's like nothing to do with the horny content. Also, my first account got banned. Second account, third account, fourth account. I'm on like my fifth, but like
nice.
Nowadays, I'll like occasionally post something like horny-ish, and people will be like, "What the fuck, like, dude? What are you doing?
I see that shit on
what are you doing?" And like, I'm just like, bro, this is what I started out as. This is what I started out as.
That's vintage. That's vintage PokePreet.
Yeah, I've seen some of that shit on Twitter, bro, and I'm like, Marxist analysis. Where are the people to peg me? Marxist analysis. Marxist. Just like
I respect that.
Like, what is going on? Did he get hacked? And then it was like, oh, 1 week later, it's like, damn, bro, you looking good. I'm like, oh, what? So, I was like, this guy's a fool. I love it. We got to have him on.
Well, before we end, I want to ask you the same question we ask every guest.
Yeah.
What radicalized you? People don't come to Marxism, I think, naturally without some kind of catalyzing event.
I was like, I was raised in my family's Maoist, so a lot of them were.
Well, maybe you're an exception then. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sort of. Like I was raised in that environment. A lot of them were in the Naxalbari, so it's like a student uprising in the red quarter of India, and so they were.
Is that the Kerala?
No, that's not Kerala. Kerala is a different. That's under CPI Marxist, and then they're under CPI Maoist. So it's a fucking mess, like all the sectarian parties. It's hard to explain, but they became radicalized during the 60s, 70s. There were a lot of student movements, and I was raised in that environment, but I never really identified as Marxist until like 2016, when like Bernie Sanders started running, and I was just like, oh, you know what? Like, I'll check out some socialist theory, you know, like, what the hell? And I opened up, the Communist Manifesto as like a joke, you know, it's a meme. And I read it. I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And then I read like a little
really
bit of
prescient,
Lenin. Yeah. Oh, this kind of makes sense. Oh, I read a little bit of Stalin. Oh, this kind of makes sense. And then, you know, it just snowballed.
Yeah.
1 year later, buying guns for the revolution.
It's just no, but I totally know what you mean. It has never failed me. Every Marxist book I read, I'm like, damn, this one hits. Like it's all just makes sense. And every Marxist book you read, Absolutely. It's always so spot on. And I'm like always impressed by like how they predicted everything. And like it doesn't matter if it's Marx, Mao, Stalin, Lenin, or whatever, Ho Chi Minh, whatever I read, it's like they just predicted everything perfectly. And I'm like, this is how you know this is the path. This is the truth, man. Yeah.
I was lucky as well because I was raised in a household that where my parents were born in Yugoslavia under Tito's communist regime.
Yeah.
Right. And so like the way they explained to me like society back in the day, they're like, I'm seeing all this shit here, like, oh, these homeless people and everything. My dad's like, you know, back in the day, you know, we could just sleep on the bench and nobody would touch you overnight. If you didn't have a job or something like that, they'd find you a job, whatever. Like all these like little things. And I'm just like, why can't we have that here? That sounds great. That sounds like a great idea.
Also, as you hear about like China, even it's like, there's really no like homelessness in China because it's like they just take care of their people on the streets or whatever.
Well,
like, oh yeah, what a concept. Taking
and I didn't understand what that was, right?
Yeah.
And then I just started looking more into like reading more, looking into suddenly, you know, honestly, Richard Wolff.
Yes, that was your guy.
Yeah, that was my guy. He really kind of explained a lot of like the basics to me, and then I read farther, deeper than him, and started understanding like actual socialist theory more and more. And then I didn't become like a Marxist and a Leninist until like 2019, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like an actualized, like I am a communist Marxist Leninist.
Yeah.
I was always just a Marxist or a socialist.
Yeah. The thing I will say, like going back to your point, like where like, you know, Marxism is such an intoxicating, even Marxists I disagree with, I'll always find like a point that's like, oh yeah, this is spot on, right? Like, or Trotsky or like, you know, like I'm a Stalinist, I'm on the Stalin side, but like Trotsky or like Bordiga or like, you know, I'll read these Marxists and it's like, I don't think there is such a thing as a shitty Marxist take necessarily. They all have
I agree.
inkling of truth in them. Like, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
agree.
Even somebody like Parenti, I'm like, dude, everything he's saying is gold. And then he'll start talking about Yugoslavia post the war, like 96, 97. And he's like defending Yugoslavia past 96, 97. But that's like not Yugoslavia anymore. That is just Serbia saying that they're Yugoslavia because they're still with Montenegro, right? So they're like if you actually read what happened during what Milosevic did and shit like that, you're going to be like, this guy was a piece of fucking human garbage, right? Like genocidal. I'm like, I understand that they're communist by name, but they're not communist by nature anymore. And then when their government shut down in the early 2000s and they changed from Yugoslavia to Serbia, they were just a capitalist state. Like they didn't really change much politically or socioeconomically. They just changed their name.
It was an easy transition because they'd already been
exactly. Communist Yugoslavia died out in 92 when the war fully began, right? And so that when he kept trying to favor Milosevic over, and it's because it has to do with NATO, right? If you're anti-NATO, you're pro-Serbian, but I'm neither. I'm neither because I fucking hate the Serbian government, but I hate fucking NATO. And some people that are like pro-NATO or like anti-NATO, they're like pro-Russia. I never understood that shit. I'm like, Russia is just another bourgeois state. Well, same thing with Serbia after Yugoslavia fell apart. Serbia is just another bourgeois state like Russia, but people were like backing it as if it's a communist state. That's but Parenti's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so easy to fall into in America too, because like a lot of our conceptions are when we're becoming like anti-communist, a lot of our conceptions are like against the American empire. And so a lot of people accidentally end up becoming like lazy. I call them lazy global Southern nationalists. Like if it's in the global South and anti-American, it's automatically good, you know? And there's some truth to that. Like, you know, usually if you are on the right side, like, you know, like the Korean War or whatever, the DPRK or like Vietnam or whatever. But like sometimes you end up backing like Rhodesia or like Yugoslavia.
Or Pol Pot.
Pol Pot or, you know.
The people that end up backing Pol Pot, I'm like, you're a psychopath, bro. Like
Russia,
Yeah, that's the sketchy one. When like, and even like some like leftist people today on like Instagram are like just very pro Russia, but again, it's okay to be anti-American, but it's not. But you got to also evaluate who is being anti-American. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
and that's the important.
Remember,
distinction
Russia
for
is
people.
still a bourgeois state. If Russia was the largest country on earth, they would just be another America. They just happen to be not as powerful as the U.S.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I mean, the reason Russia was even dissolved was or the USSR was even dissolved was because Russia was hoping to get into the EU, into NATO.
Yeah,
And
Putin talked with fucking George Bush about trying to enter NATO in the EU.
Yeah. I mean, they want to be part of the Western capitalist bloc, and then they just realized, oh, we're like kind of Eastern Orientals, and they're never going to let us in because it's never going to let us into the party. Yeah. So just create like a counter bloc, like a counter capitalist bloc.
And then BRICS is doing pretty well. So. Yeah,
except India.
Well,
Modi being a fascist and shit, I think India's going to get kicked out soon.
You think India's going to get kicked out of BRICS?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think so.
No, BRICS is very non-ideological. I feel.
Yeah, it's just trade basically. Just NAFTA basically.
Yeah, but India is starting to slowly suck up to the U.S. and the BRICS. The whole point of BRICS is to get away from U.S. monetary control.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what trade deals India makes with China, with America, and like that. What goes on, because Modi and Trump being friends is really largely irrelevant to BRICS and the future of BRICS. But Modi and the Department of American Commerce is that's a whole different thing. I don't know. We don't have time to get into all that, but I would love to. So we didn't talk about not to be totally assumptive to make assumptions, but you've mentioned your parents. You're from India. Your parents are from India.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't talk about anything Indian communist related, because I would love to hear more about these Indian political parties and also your take on Modi and the kind of the current state of India. If you have a stake in the kind of the current state of India, I mean, you're an American living in America, so you might not care or know too much about what's going on in India. Not to assume you do, but.
I know the basics. India used to be a very secular. It used to advertise itself as a secular democracy. So after independence, it was under the Congress Party, right? So post-independence, under the Congress Party, we're a secular democracy. Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs, and we're all living together happily. And then capitalism fucking devolved, and it needed pseudo nationalism. And so the Hindutva. They got into power in, I believe, 2014 under the BJP, and they have just redefined India's secular democracy into being for Hinduism, basically, right? So and they have these very odd readings of history. So before the British, India was ruled by the Mughals, right? So this Muslim empire, and they'll connect that Mughal empire to modern day Muslims that are living in India. There's this sort of lost cause narrative, we used to be great and they ruined our country, so let's get rid of them. There's this sort of ahistorical take where these are all non-native people, right? These are foreigners who came from somewhere else and not people who were converted naturally. And so it's really devolved into pseudo. It's the story of every single liberal secular democracy as capitalism devolves. It devolves into rabid nationalism and hyper nationalism. Yeah. And in-group, out-group. The two major parties are the CPI Marxist that rules Kerala, under a united front sort of with a bunch of other leftist parties. And they do a pretty good job. They're mostly social democrats. They're reformists. I wouldn't say they're revolutionary, but they have the highest literacy rates, highest life outcomes. They run Kerala pretty well. And then the other one is CPI Maoist. And so that was created in West Bengal when there was this uprising of peasants in an area called the Naxal. And so against landlords, this armed uprising, and it just exploded into a Maoist movement called the Naxalbari movement.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear more about that. I mean, would you mind coming back on at some time in the near future for a part 2 of this conversation? Because you just opened up so many avenues of discussion that I would love to follow. This is an area I don't know a bunch about, and I would love to just learn more.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for it kind of today. I do have to get going pretty soon here, but I just would love to kind of continue that conversation. If you're amenable and up to a part 2 of this in the coming weeks.
I'm down. I'd have to research a little bit, just a little.
Oh.
bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, we never do any research, so don't feel obligated. We just we shoot from the hip around here. Yeah.
Some research.
Okay, yeah, we did a little research.
But
We didn't even get to talk about the whole Trump-Elon divorce. I'd love to get into that, but we just don't have the time.
Okay.
We'll have to save that to the next episode, because man, that has been fueling my my dopamine this past week.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
great.
has, yeah.
Yeah, it's been good stuff. Well,
Messy.
awesome. Thank you so much, PokePreet. We really appreciate you coming on. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, but we'll have all of your links to all of your platforms and anywhere else that people can find you in the description below. Where can the people follow you? Where should people be searching you out?
You can find me on TikTok. I forget my handle because I've been banned 5 times, but it's not
We'll have a link.
PokePreet or like PokePreet 1 or something.
It's
of that
not
sort.
PokePreet.
It's currently not PokePreet.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. You can find me on YouTube under the same name. My podcast and like sort of like my shitpost channel, they're both PokePreet. And then on Spotify and Apple Pod, you can find my podcast, the PokePreet Pod. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll have all the links to those below. Go check PokePreet out. Give them a follow wherever you hang out. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate that conversation. That was fun and enlightening.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
awesome.
Same here.
Well, thanks, bud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, of course.